Hey everyone, we know how hard it can be to keep up with the latest news in Israel, so if you haven't had the time to stay on top of what's what in the Holy Land with ILTV, have no worries. It's time for our new show this week in Israel, where we'll give you the scoop on everything you need to know about the last 7 days right from Tel Aviv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, here to keep you informed. As U.S. President Donald Trump prepares for his visit to Israel next week, he's being caught in a political tsunami at home over allegations that he compromised an Israeli intelligence asset. Israel's Channel 1 News is reporting that the intelligence Trump disclosed to Russia involving a plot to detonate laptop bombs came directly from the Islamic State capital of Raqqa. And allegedly, the U.S. got this intel from the IDF's military intelligence. According to ABC News, Trump's loose lips may be endangering the life of the spy who got this intel. The Justice Department has appointed a special counsel to oversee an investigation into Trump's Russia ties, and Israel's ambassador to the U.S. as well as top intelligence officials are meeting with the U.S. They're hoping to resolve this crisis before Trump's visit. According to an Israeli official, Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu were not discussing the situation during their unscheduled 20-minute phone call on Tuesday. Well, the new American ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, only arrived in Israel less than 48 hours ago, but he's already hit the ground running. He's not only met with all the top leaders in the Jewish state, but he's even just announced a potential breakthrough in the peace process. The new American envoy formally presented his credentials to Israeli President Reuven Rivlin in Jerusalem. After exchanging greetings shortly after Friedman's swearing-in ceremony, he met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The premier made mention of Friedman's visit to the Western Wall, known as the Kotel in Hebrew, as his first stop after arriving in the country.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to see you.
My pleasure.
To welcome you to Jerusalem, our eternal capital. I know you went to the Kotel. It's deeply appreciated by all our people.
No, there was no other place to go. That was the place to go.
It was a strong gesture of solidarity. We look forward to receiving President Trump, and we want to work with you and with the president these coming years to strengthen our great alliance.
We will.
Thank you.
Friedman has just announced that Palestinian Authority head Mahmoud Abbas has dropped all preconditions for resuming peace talks with Israel. The new U.S. ambassador says that neither the PA nor Washington is demanding Israel to first freeze settlement building, which until now has been a significant obstacle to reviving negotiations. Friedman is also disclosing, however, that U.S. President Trump is not planning on unveiling any specific diplomatic plan or a roadmap to peace when he arrives in Jerusalem just 5 days from now. If you've been wondering just what U.S. President Donald Trump will be up to when he arrives on his first foreign trip in the Holy Land next week, we have the answer. Here's the presidential itinerary that's just been released by U.S. National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster.
The president will then continue on to Jerusalem, where he will meet with President Rivlin and lay a wreath at Yad Vashem. The president will then deliver remarks at the Israel Museum and celebrate the unique history of Israel and of the Jewish people, while reaffirming America's unshakable bond with our closest ally in the Middle East. Later that day, he will meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu. That night, the President and the First Lady will join the Prime Minister and Mrs. Netanyahu for a private dinner. The following morning, the President will meet President Abbas in Bethlehem, where he will convey his administration's eagerness to facilitate an agreement that ends the conflict. And he will urge Palestinian leaders to take steps that will help lead to peace. And he will visit the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and say a prayer at the Western Wall.
The announcement of Trump's visit to the Jewish holy site comes amid a diplomatic spat in Jerusalem, when a U.S. consulate official reportedly told his local counterparts that Israel has no sovereignty over the holiest site in Judaism. All because it's a part of the West Bank. The White House distanced itself from the alleged comments, saying that they don't reflect the views of the administration. U.S. President Donald Trump will be making his landmark visit to Israel in just under a week, but preparations are already underway. Now, believe me when I tell you, you will not believe just how much baggage a presidential trip entails or what it's costing to ensure his safety. First of all, just like all visiting presidents, the White House is shipping a special limousine to transport Trump. It's affectionately known as the Beast, and it's not only armored and bulletproof, but it's also protected against grenade, bomb, and even biological and chemical attacks. Altogether, a whopping 30 C-17 American aircraft are needed to transport everything that Trump needs, including another 56 vehicles for his entourage. And that's not all. They're also shipping in this incredible protective glass that's going to be installed at the King David Hotel where Trump's staying in Jerusalem. And speaking of accommodations, 3 entire hotels are being reserved for the 1,000 plus members of the press, White House logistics, and the security personnel who are tagging along. It's all adding up to about $100 million of taxpayer money, but hey, who counts pennies when it comes to making sure a president is safe and comfortable? All right, it looks like the Trump administration is more divided than ever when it comes to moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Veteran bureaucrats in the State Department, Department of Defense, and intelligence community are issuing stern warnings to the president against the move, according to CNN. At the same time, Trump advisors in the West Wing are imploring him to keep his campaign promise. Many are wondering if the president plans to announce the embassy move when he arrives in Israel next week, or if he'll be the 4th president in a row to backslide on the pledge. Trump plans to make the first presidential visit to the Western Wall during his trip, but Israel's Channel 2 News is reporting that officials from the American consulate and embassy in Israel have been claiming that the Jewish holy site is not part of Israel. Senior Trump officials have clarified that this is not the president's stance and that these comments are unauthorized. For years, the Jerusalem consulate has acted as a de facto embassy of Palestine, and diplomats posted there have even clashed with the IDF at security checkpoints. Now, it might be hard to believe what the Egyptian president has just said about Donald Trump, and his comments come just when the badgered U.S. president could sure use some kind words. In a detailed interview with an Egyptian newspaper, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi is calling Trump a unique and very great person. Not only that, apparently Trump is a decisive figure in resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Sisi says that the Palestinians and the Arabs are ready for peace and that Israel sees this opportunity. He sees Trump's push for peace as a chance to live together in a better future away from hatred. Those are some strong words from a military strongman. Egypt is perhaps closer to Israel than any other Arab country with open relations and close security cooperation. But that hasn't always been the case. In the early 2010s, former President Mohamed Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood steered Egypt into a pro-Hamas direction, threatening the historic Israeli-Egypt peace treaty. Now relations have been even better, with Israel even relying on Sisi to arrange a ceasefire in the 2014 Protective Edge war against Hamas. A significant breakthrough toward regional peace might possibly be underway now that some Gulf Arab states are considering forming ties with Israel. According to today's Wall Street Journal, several Arab Gulf nations are willing to improve relations with the Jewish state if Jerusalem makes a major effort to revive the peace process with the Palestinians. This normalization process reportedly includes permission for Israeli planes to enter the Gulf countries' airspace, as well as the creation of the interlinking of trade and telecommunication lines. So what's the catch? Well, there are a few, and they're pretty big. Israel would first have to agree to freeze all settlement construction and also ease trade restrictions with the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip. By the way, Saudi Arabia tops the itinerary of U.S. President Donald Trump's impending visit to the region, where he's planning to meet with other Arab leaders from neighboring states. He'll then come to Israel, followed by a stop at the Vatican. U.S. President Donald Trump is set to arrive in Israel exactly 1 week from today. Ahead of the landmark visit, officials from both Egypt and Jordan say they're optimistic over the American leader's commitment to resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. That's what's being heard from Amman after the Jordanian and Egyptian foreign ministers met with the chief Palestinian Authority negotiator to discuss the decades-long dispute. During a meeting with PA President Mahmoud Abbas earlier this month, Trump vowed to do whatever is necessary to broker peace with Israel. Although the American leader hasn't provided a specific plan to revive long-stalled negotiations, Israel's regional partners are pledging to do all that they can to help pave the path to peace.
We're committed to achieving that peace, and in that regard, we also discussed the outcome of the extremely positive and successful and productive talks the leaders had in Washington during their meetings with President Trump. We all value the obvious and solid commitment that the President had made to ensuring progress towards resolving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And as our leaders emphasized there, we are willing to do the heavy lifting. We are going to do whatever it takes to help push the process forward and to be there supporting the President and working with him.
The Arab Peace Initiative was a unilateral indication of the communal Arab decision to comprehensive, peaceful solution on the basis of two states living side by side, and continues to present a vision of the normalization of conditions in the region and the creation of new environment.
The Palestinians continue to insist increased settlement building in the West Bank jeopardizes a future state they want to establish both there and in Gaza, with East Jerusalem as the capital.
To continue the settlement activities on the land that's supposed to be the Palestinian state in the future is transmitting one message to people, that those who continue the settlement activities don't want the two-state solution. I really urge the Israeli government to choose between settlements or peace. And I hope that they will choose peace. We have negotiated. We will give peace a chance.
Israeli officials maintain they're open to land swaps that would facilitate a Palestinian state while retaining areas in the West Bank they regard as the Jewish people's biblical homeland of Judea and Samaria. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to unveil an assortment of economic incentives for the Palestinians, all in the latest bid to reach a peace deal. According to Israel's Channel 2 News, Netanyahu will announce the details of the Palestinian stimulus package on Sunday, just a day before President Donald Trump arrives in Israel. In a related story, Finance Minister Moshe Kahlon was meeting with his Palestinian Authority counterpart in Jerusalem yesterday. Kahlon and Shukri Bishara discussed the potential opening of the Allenby Bridge crossing between Jordan and the West Bank for 24 hours a day, and other measures. Bishara is concerned with the high unemployment among qualified Palestinian graduates. These moves come ahead of Trump's push for new peace talks. Trump's peace envoy Jason Greenblatt is meeting with Israeli and Palestinian officials today to finalize details of the president's visit. And according to a report in the Wall Street Journal, the Gulf Arab states are willing to essentially normalize relations with Israel in exchange for a partial settlement freeze and an easing of the Gaza blockade. While the peace process with the Palestinians is likely to take center stage during U.S. President Donald Trump's impending visit to Israel, dangers Iran poses to the Jewish state are also likely to be a key topic. And particularly now that Washington's just basically extended the 2015 nuclear deal with Tehran that was strenuously opposed by Jerusalem. Donald Trump, the candidate, vowed to tear up the deal with Iran, but Donald Trump, the president, is taking a different approach. His administration has just signed the latest periodic waiver to keep punitive measures from being reimposed on the hardline Islamic Republic. That essentially means the White House has just preserved the nuclear deal for now. Trump still says he needs more time to study the accord and that Washington will never allow Iran to acquire nuclear weapons. Iranian officials have repeatedly threatened to wipe Israel off of the map. Meanwhile, the White House is setting its sights on the Shiite regime's ballistic missile program it fears could be used against America's key allies like Israel or Saudi Arabia. New measures are now being taken against certain military officials and a company in Iran, as well as a China-based network accused of providing the supplies needed for the rocket development. This is all consistent with what we've seen from the White House so far. Its assessment to Congress last month that the Ayatollahs are complying with terms of the 2015 accord kept the economic benefits flowing. But at the same time, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson was publicly slamming the deal for possibly not doing enough to stop the rogue state from developing nuclear weapons. A series of Israeli lawmakers are standing up for Syrians in need by calling on their nation to bomb a Damascus area crematorium that's being used to burn the bodies of thousands of executed political prisoners. Earlier this week, the U.S. State Department released a report claiming that the government of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has been carrying out the mass killings. It's believed that about 50 detainees are being hanged at Saidnaya military prison every day, and their corpses are then being burned. Israel is outraged, and many opposition ministers like Yesh Atid party leader Yair Lapid are drawing parallels between the world's failure to protect Jews during the Holocaust. Interior Minister Aryeh Deri is supporting the move, but is urging the United States to take care of the problem for having made the allegations in the first place. Earlier on Tuesday, Housing and Construction Minister Yoav Gallant called for Syrian leader Assad to be assassinated, accusing the president of carrying out a genocide against his own people. The Syrian war has killed up to 400,000 people since 2011, contributing to the worst refugee crisis in Europe since the Second World War. Israel is fuming following Jordan's response to how Israeli police handled a terror attack in Jerusalem over the weekend. On Saturday, a 57-year-old Jordanian citizen began to stab an Israeli policeman in the neck after returning from prayers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem.
סמוך לשעה 2 צהריים, לאחר תפילת צהריים בהר הבית, יוצא מחבל לאחר התפילה, עולה ברחוב השלשלת ומזהה שוטר של המרחב אחרי סיום משמרת, חוזר חזרה ותוקף אותו חזיתית. הוא שולף סכין ומצליח לדקור אותו מספר דקירות, גם בצוואר, גם בפנים וגם בגוף.
The police officer immediately responded by shooting the assailant, killing him on the spot. The Jordanian stabber, later identified as Muhammad Abdullah Salim al-Kasuji, had entered Israel just a few days earlier.
מדובר במחבל מבוגר בשנות יליד 60. אנחנו יודעים כרגע לומר שהוא תושב ירדן. אנחנו יודעים לומר שהוא נכנס בימים האחרונים לירושלים. אנחנו כמובן נבדוק את כל השהות שלו כאן, את כל המהלך שלו בירושלים, אולי בסביבותיה ואולי בעיר העתיקה, על מנת לבדוק את כל מה שקרה עד לרגע הפיגוע.
Video footage shows al-Kasuji walking down a street in Jerusalem's Old City before violently carrying out the attack. The 37-year-old police officer has been evacuated to a Jerusalem hospital where he's being treated for moderate injuries. In the meantime, the Jordanian government is slamming Israel for the killing of al-Kasuji, calling it a heinous crime caused by the Jewish state's occupation of East Jerusalem. Israel is fighting back by calling the allegations outrageous and is accusing Jordan of supporting terror. The Lebanese terror group Hezbollah is escalating already high tensions with Israel. Now the leader of the Shiite organization is threatening the next major conflict between the two sides could even take place on Israeli territory. Sheikh Sayed Hassan Nasrallah has been in hiding for years out of fear of possible assassination attempts. So his latest inflammatory statements were televised from an undisclosed location to cheering supporters gathered in Beirut.
أن العدو الإسرائيلي خائف وقلق من أي مواجهة مقبلة، لأنه بدي أحكي شوي عن هالنقطة. من أي مواجهة مقبلة. هو يعلم أن أي مواجهة مقبلة قد تكون في داخل الأرض الفلسطينية المحتلة. لن يكون هناك مكان بمنأى لا عن صواريخ المقاومة ولا عن أقدام المقاومين.
Even though the last major war between the two sides was in 2006 when Hezbollah launched a deadly cross-border raid, Israel sees the group as one of its top strategic enemies. Jerusalem is increasingly concerned that the experience and weapons the Iranian-backed terror group gains while fighting on behalf of the Assad regime in the Syrian civil war could ultimately endanger the Jewish state. The Israeli Air Force has recently become more assertive in carrying out strikes against Hezbollah depots and convoys to keep advanced arms from reaching the terrorists. The already tense situation in Hebron is now being exacerbated by the election of a new mayor with a lot of blood on his hands. Convicted murderer Taysir Abu Snaneh took office on Saturday to the outrage of Jewish residents in the region, who have not forgotten his role in the massacre of 6 Israeli yeshiva students in 1980. Abu Snaneh and his terror cell opened fire on a group of Israelis who were on their way home, killing 6 and wounding 20.
He was convicted of murder but was then released in a prisoner swap just 4 years later. Abu Snene's Fatah party has praised him as a hero who led a courageous operation against the settlers' soldiers. The head of the Shomron Regional Council is calling for President Donald Trump to cancel his upcoming meeting with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas in response to the election of this convicted terrorist.
A cyber attack disrupted businesses, government, and medical service in around 70 countries this weekend. But quick action and a bit of luck has kept Israel in the clear. The country is still on high alert, though.
There's been no damage to Israel's critical infrastructure from the attack, even though Russia and the United Kingdom fell victim to the exploit. Cybersecurity experts across Israel worked over the weekend to install a vaccine against the attack, taking direction from the National Cyber Bureau. But the CEO of Tel Aviv cyber firm White Hat says that luck has also played a large role. Since most businesses were closed for the weekend, it was easier to avert catastrophe. The cyber chaos isn't over, however. One former Shin Bet security agent is warning that cyber assaults are only likely to increase in scope and wreak even greater destruction in the future.
All right, let's face it, Israel has sunny skies most of the year, great beaches, and fantastic food. So who could possibly pass up a golden opportunity to experience the Holy Land for themselves? It turns out not many, because this past month, a record-breaking number of people set foot in the country.
According to the latest stats from the Ministry of Tourism, an astonishing 349,000 visitors came to Israel in April. That's not only a 38% increase over the same time last year, but it's the highest number ever documented for any month since the country was founded back in 1948. Overall, the numbers show a steady 40% increase over the past 2 years. And not only do the visitors get the trip of a lifetime, but they bring in much appreciated revenue. Since just January of this year, the state has earned nearly $2 billion in tourism-related trade, which is also unprecedented. So don't be left behind. Come check out Israel for yourselves. We promise you'll be happy you did.
If you've been considering going on vacation to Israel, it looks like September might be the right time, because starting then you'll be able to purchase flights between Tel Aviv and the United States for just $149. All we can say is wow, literally.
That's right. The Icelandic airline WOW Air has just announced that it's going to be operating flights from here in Tel Aviv to New York, Toronto, Miami, and even San Francisco. The crazy part is that those flights will only cost up to $199. And best of all, the flights will come with the option to stop over in Iceland for a few days, where Israeli and American tourists will have a chance to see the country's beautiful glaciers, waterfalls, and natural hot springs. WOW Air's flights are going to be the cheapest transatlantic fares to ever exist from Tel Aviv, although do keep in mind they don't include a checked bag in the deal. That'll cost another $50. Minister of Transportation Israel Katz is saying that Israel dealt with Iceland directly, as routes from Israel to the U.S. need competition. If the free market is going to mean fares like that, call me a raging capitalist.
Anyone near Tel Aviv could hear the entire city rocking out as Aerosmith walked this way and kicked off its major world tour in Israel.
Lead singer Steven Tyler totally charmed the enthusiastic crowd of 50,000 Israeli fans. He even sprinkled quite a bit of Hebrew in between his best hits, starting with a greeting of Erev Tov for good evening. The bad boys from Boston repertoire included Living on the Edge, Crazy, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, and Dream On. He even gave a shout out to Israel's most famous supermodel, who was apparently sitting in the VIP section, by calling out, "Barafeli, this song is for you, baby." The 69-year-old veteran rocker didn't let any minor microphone issues slow him down, and he even sang out that he intends to make Aliyah and immigrate to Israel. While bandmate Joe Perry gave a guitar solo, video played of him strumming in the nearby Rabin Square. The lead guitarist told the agreeable audience that 23 years is much too long, since the last time the 70s rock stars performed in the Jewish state. Then Tyler called out Laila Tov, good night, and wished one and all good luck with a hearty Mazal Tov before concluding the unforgettable show.
That's it for this week's Roundup. Tune in next Friday for our next episode of This Week in Israel. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from Tel Aviv.